At first, nothing felt wrong. The world still responded the way it always had. People spoke. Cars stopped at red lights. Phones vibrated in pockets. Everything worked. That was the unsettling part. Nothing was broken. Nothing was missing. Nothing was attacking you. And yet, something felt rehearsed. You noticed it in small moments. A greeting returned half a second too late. A smile arriving just after it should have. A laugh that sounded correct, but empty. You ignored it. Because everyone ignores things that don't come with proof. But once you noticed the timing, you couldn't stop noticing it. People didn't interrupt you anymore. They waited. They always waited, as if your sentence needed to fully load before their response could begin. You told yourself it was politeness. Then it happened again. And again, different faces, same pause. You began watching instead of participating. You stood in line at a cafe and listened. The person in front of you ordered. The cashier smiled, paused, then spoke. Perfectly. The next customer. Same smile, same pause, same tone, not similar, identical. You felt a quiet discomfort settle in, not fear, awareness. You tested it without meaning to. You stopped mid-sentence while talking to someone. They froze. Not dramatically. Their body continued functioning, breathing, blinking, but everything else paused. You finished the sentence. They resumed, as if nothing had happened. Had it always been like this? Or had you only started noticing it now? You didn't tell anyone. Because how do you explain a feeling that disappears the moment you try to describe it? You began seeing patterns. People repeating the same phrases in different places on different days. Not common phrases, specific ones. The kind people don't usually copy. You heard the same sentence 3 times in one afternoon. From strangers. You laughed it off. Coincidence is comforting. It lets reality stay intact. But comfort doesn't last long. You noticed eye contact next, too long or not long enough. People stared as if waiting for confirmation, as if your presence required validation. When you looked away, they looked away too. When you turned back, they were already watching. You felt like the world was buffering around you. Still, nothing collapsed. The city moved, schedules held, news kept cycling. Reality didn't glitch, it synchronized. You changed routines, different routes, different times, different places. The same patterns followed. Different faces, same behavior. Crowds became unsettling, not because they were loud, because they moved together. People stopped at crosswalks at the exact same second, turned their heads at the same angle, laughed on the same beat. It felt choreographed. You stood still once, in the middle of a busy sidewalk. Everyone adjusted, perfectly. No one bumped into you. No one reacted emotionally. They flowed around you like water around a stone. You felt separate. Not superior, not threatened, just misplaced. You noticed something important. When you were alone, everything felt normal again. Your apartment felt real. Your thoughts felt uninterrupted. Your reflection behaved correctly. But the moment you stepped outside, the delay returned. The syncing resumed. Was the world only strange when you were part of it? You started recording, video, audio. Nothing showed up. The footage looked fine. People behaved like people. If anything, you looked paranoid. That made it worse. You realized something else. People never initiated. They only responded. Conversations didn't begin unless you began them. People didn't interrupt. They waited. Always. You tested silence. In an elevator. 10 people. No one spoke. No one shifted. They just stood there, waiting. The doors opened. They moved together. You left last. No one looked back. You checked social media. Everyone posted, smiled, traveled, celebrated. But the captions felt hollow, generic, repetitive. You saw the same sentence from different accounts, different cities, same wording. You started feeling tired, not physically, mentally, like being the only one awake in a room full of mannequins that could move. You wondered if this was how it had always been, if everyone else had simply learned how to respond better, and you were the one lagging behind. You tested memory. You asked people about shared experiences. They agreed with everything you said, even when it contradicted itself. You said the sky was blue. They nodded. You said it was green. They nodded again. No confusion. No correction. Just compliance. Why didn't anyone push back? Why didn't anyone disagree? You stopped correcting yourself. You observed. People mirrored your tone. If you spoke calmly, they stayed calm. If you spoke fast, they sped up. If you paused, they paused. Like reflections learning how to behave. You stopped going out at night. Windows bothered you. Too many reflections. Too many silhouettes standing just slightly off. You once caught someone smiling before you said anything, as if they anticipated it, as if the response loaded early. You realized something then. Whatever this was, it wasn't hostile, it wasn't violent, it didn't need to be. It only needed to blend in, to observe, to adapt, to respond. You wondered what would happen if you disappeared. Would anything change? Would the world keep going? Or would it stall without input? You stayed home for days. Nothing happened. The outside world continued, at least that's what the screen showed. But when you stepped out again, the delay was worse, the pauses longer, the synchronization tighter. You felt noticed, not individually, systemically. People stood closer now, not touching, just near enough to feel intentional. Their eyes followed you when you weren't looking. You stopped reacting. You became quiet. And the world felt uneasy. People fidgeted, looked around, as if waiting for permission. You spoke again. They relaxed. That's when you understood. This wasn't about control. It was about reference. You weren't leading. You were anchoring. And that thought settled heavy. Because if they needed you to respond, if they needed you to react, if they needed you to speak first, then what did that make you? You stood in a crowd once more. And for the first time, everyone looked at you, not together, not in sync, but slowly, one by one, as if confirming something. No fear in their faces, no anger, just acknowledgement. You didn't run, you didn't scream, there was no need. The truth had already arrived. Quietly, gently, unavoidable. Maybe they aren't pretending. Maybe they were never meant to be like you. Maybe you aren't surrounded by imposters. Maybe you are the anomaly, the variable, the observer in a system designed to respond. And maybe you're not losing your mind. You're simply noticing what was always there. Because if everyone around you only reacts, only mirrors, only waits, then there is one conclusion that no longer feels impossible. Maybe you are not surrounded by copies. Maybe you are not trapped. Maybe you are not alone. Maybe you are the only real human here.